Welcome to the Nerd Party.
They can travel anywhere in time and space.
Off we go into time and space!
So all of time and all of space is sitting out there.
Welcome to Time and Space, one married couple's adventure through the Doctor Who universe. I'm Jessica Nunn.
And I'm her classic companion, Phillip Gilfus.
You are a classic.
That's right.
Old.
Right, then I'll be replaced by your new companion later on.
Yes!
It'll probably be a woman in a skirt, let's be honest.
Aw, that'd be fun.
Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, we haven't necessarily had anything Doctor Who. It's been a busy week, still is busy, so I don't know necessarily, other than what we're going to talk about today. In particular, we've done Doctor Who related.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I think you're right. We are recording at the very last minute this week because our schedules have been rather crazy, and we get to spend about, 45 minutes together every day at the minute?
That's right.
I miss your face.
Yeah, I've actually been trying to discover some things to watch without you, which is hard because obviously I always want to watch everything with you. But I started the first episode of Sense8.
Which I have seen, but I think I'd like to join you on the watch because I started watching it and then just sort of fell off.
See, now you've defeated the purpose, darling. Trying to find something I can watch.
Yeah, I know, here. But I don't want you to do that one. Not that one.
Basically, I've heard good things. I know the finale came out, so I know there's a completion at least. But also, JMS, or J. Michael Straczynski, if I'm saying his name correctly, Babylon 5 fame, who I'm currently finishing his works through here on the network. For those who know, listening to Filibuster, Charlene Schmidt and I have been doing a Babylon 5 series where we've covered all the seasons, and we've sort of finished, but we actually haven't, because now we're kind of watching Crusades, the Babylon 5 spinoff. And then when we get done with that, then we're probably going to go through some books. So it's a continuing adventure through Babylon 5.
You're dragging it out, kicking and screaming. So what do you think of Sense8?
Well, I've only made 3/4 of the way through episode 1.
Oh, right.
So it's still establishing itself. So
fair enough. Now, that's the one with Martha, right?
It is.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Freema. You see more of her than you've seen of her before.
Boy, howdy. I was like, oh, look at all these naked people. And then I was like, Martha, what are you doing?
But anyway, so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Because I know, I trust JMS, and he's a good storyteller. He wrote for She-Ra.
Okay.
And the Real Ghostbusters. He's very active on Twitter now that Babylon 5 is on Amazon Prime. So if you haven't watched Babylon 5 before, I certainly recommend it, but don't take my word for it. But it's on Amazon Prime, so I think it's getting a lot more buzz in the Twitter sphere these days. So he's been talking about it. He's been a prolific TV writer, so yeah, it's interesting to see him, how he sort of started in the, cartoon verse. I don't know his whole oeuvre, but that was one of the things he started in. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. He made our childhoods a thing. Huh?
Exactly, or at least mine. So
I watched She-Ra.
She-Ra.
Princess of Power.
There you go. So what are we talking about today, darling?
Today we are talking about Daleks. What more can you say about the ultimate Doctor Who villain? To kick off our discussion on the bad boys from Skaro, we recently watched the riff-tracked version of Doctor Who and the Daleks, featuring Peter Cushing as Doctor Who. It also features the plot of the first Doctor serial, The Daleks. We'll talk about extermination, Dalek bumps, and, again, how they stole a TV plot to make a movie.
Right. So this is sort of interesting. Now, we watched The Daleks, didn't we?
Yes.
I'm trying to remember, for this show, I'm sure, trying to remember the context in which we watched it. But anyway, so it was, so I have seen their beginning. Mm-hmm. And, of course, in New Who, we've sort of seen everything else. And so there's certain holes in Doctor Who that I think will still be fun for you as far as the Daleks. Like, we haven't watched Genesis of the Daleks, which, spoiler alert, is Davros' first appearance ever in Doctor Who. Yeah. So it literally explains the Genesis of the Daleks.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. It does what it says on the tin.
Exactly.
I like it.
And that was sort of a disappointing thing for me, because that was recently in the movie theaters to promote the Blu-ray release in America of Series 1, Tom Baker. I believe they use a different number in the UK. But anyway, of his seasons. And so...
And we had... You were doing...
I was in a meeting at church. So, anyway. But anyway, so we couldn't make it to the movie theater.
Stupid
so
church
I
getting
know,
in the way of everything.
Doctor Who. But anyway, so the Daleks, though. But what's your sort of general thoughts, whether it's classic or new or whatever, of the Daleks?
Yeah, again...
I have a toy here for our listeners.
You do, yes. So it's not for the listeners at all.
No, you can't have it, listeners.
You're not giving it away and they can't see it.
Right.
That toy has nothing to do with our
Though
listeners.
I'm very disappointed. It does take a AAA battery, and all I have is not but AA batteries in this household. I have bags and bags of AA batteries, but apparently...
no AAA.
Yeah, so
well, there you go.
Yeah.
Daleks to me are a lot like the Cybermen in my mind in terms of, they're iconic, and I appreciate that, but I tend not to lean towards those stories. Again, it's just a little bit science fiction-y when I like the more fantasy side of things.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that. Yes.
That's because you never listen.
That's right. I do agree. We need more food.
I'm not opposed to them. And like I say, they're iconic. I definitely want to see in the next Doctor incarnation, I do want to see the Cybermen and I do want to see the Daleks because they're such an icon. But they don't tend to be the characters that grab my attention. And maybe it's not about science fiction. Maybe it's about there's nothing particularly redeeming about them.
Right, which is the whole point. And then I think it turns... It's sort of, and I think this is broadly speaking, and I'm sure there's always exceptions to what I'm about to say, but I think the Daleks are that villain, that sort of, the bad villain, but then when you try to make them redeemable, well, then you've watered them down.
Yes, and I
then you
get
can't go back
that,
to them,
but it's so...
But I agree, you have to make them interesting
black and white,
still. Yeah.
Whereas I prefer the Doctor in shades of grey.
Exactly.
Like the, my favorite episodes are the ones with the shape-shifting creatures.
Zygons.
That live on Earth and take people's characteristics. I mean, that's such a beautiful grey area that the Doctor has to navigate. And those are the stories that I think I tend to be drawn towards more. Although, there was the Dalek in the episode, he's up in the tower...
That was the 12th Doctor's last episode. That was the in the Christmas special. Twice Upon a Time. Yes, the Doctor, if I'm saying it correctly, the one you're talking about. And I forget, they had a name for him, and I forget what it was.
I can't remember. Robbie or something ridiculous.
But anyway, that was the Dalek they had introduced early on with the 12th Doctor. I want to say it was like his third episode or something, where it was the Dalek that went good.
Yeah. Because
he was broken, and then, and that was, and they shrunk him, and anyway, and that was the Dalek who told the Doctor you would make a good Dalek. And which sort of freaked him out. But anyway, that was an interesting...
So I quite enjoyed, I enjoyed that bit. Because again, the shades of grey, I just like that there's at least something redeemable. And that's why I loved the episode where Bill becomes a Cyberman, because then again, you've got that redeemable, it's all shades of grey now.
Mm-hmm. Now, what do you think of the pop culture presence of the Daleks? Now, when you were in England, and it may answer maybe nothing, but did you sort of see any pop culture presence of Daleks in your time there? In the zeitgeist, any?
No, I mean, it's always, as somebody who didn't watch Doctor Who in England, I still knew who the Doctors were. I still knew who Daleks were.
Right.
I mean, again, they're just the iconic Doctor Who villain. It's, without having any sort of knowledge of any of the shows, you still know the Daleks.
And is it just the simplicity of their design? I mean, it's... I'm
not saying... With the plunger and the whisk.
Yeah, and the iPod, and... I mean, I'm not saying... Well, you probably could make a Dalek at home if you really wanted to. I mean, you could even a decent one. But, I wonder if that's it versus, a more intricate monster where, you could walk around and I'm a Dalek,
Yeah. Was it the first Doctor Who villain? I'm trying to think.
Yes, because it was the second serial. So I was asking you when we were watching what we're going to talk about today, whether I'd shown you the first serial, The Unearthly Child, which we haven't. But anyway, so it was the second serial. was the Daleks.
Yeah.
So it was, technically speaking, whether we can talk about whether cavemen are villains, which you'll find out. But anyway, yes, the real first alien, I suppose.
Yeah,
villain.
Which is what makes it so.
Which was, sort of, it was when we were watching, an adventure in time and space, the docudrama is not the right word, but anyway, about the history of Doctor Who, Sydney, the Canadian producer of Doctor Who, was sort of like, I don't want bug-eyed monsters, and then, he gets the Daleks. He's like, this is not what I talk about. This is exactly what I don't want. But they sort of said, no. And I do think there is an interesting story there. Now, whether it's still relevant or not, you can argue, but the story of radiation, of course, during the Cold War, the radiation and the nuclear war, and then you have these monsters who then have to protect themselves, and they're just all pure evil, and they rail against anything that's different, and it's just pure hate and purity and all that stuff, and which to a post-war Britain, but even just still can be a story.
Yes. Yeah. I can get behind that.
So the evolution of the Daleks. So like I said, you saw early on the Daleks, you saw their first serial and everything else. Do you think they've changed over the years, or is it pretty much just exterminate, kill?
I think they've gotten bigger, haven't they?
A little. Well, yes and no. I mean, I feel like in the original days, you could kind of see where the person's sitting down, whereas nowadays they're a little bit more slimmer.
Yeah.
I'm sure there may. I don't know if there's still a person. I'm sure there's still a person in there, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
But they're a little bit slimmer to me.
Yeah.
But we were talking about, I don't know whether we were watching because what we were watching or whatever, but we saw some colorful Daleks. And I remember thinking because I remember during the 11th Doctor story with these, Winston Churchill and all that with the Daleks. And then there's a whole minor brouhaha in the fan community about, these Daleks are all bright-colored, primary Crayola color. But I'm like, if you look at some of these older Daleks, they had bright-colored Daleks. This is not a new thing.
Absolutely. And the Dalek toy that we currently have sitting on the coffee table is the red Dalek. Well, and we'll come to this a little bit when we go into the TARDIS library, but those Daleks were all almost upgrading in the way that the
white,
Cybermen
and then
do.
black. And they had the special weapons Dalek.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an episode, and I know when you were doing your rewatch, you skipped it, not just because there's a file problem. But anyway, now that we have the complete Matt Smith, not a problem. But the Asylum of the Daleks, which is the 11th Doctor story, and it was kind of built as like, we're going to show all the Daleks, and it's like kind of sad because it's like they have like the one old Dalek in the corner, and then the rest are sort of new Who Dalek, so it's kind of like meh. But anyway, I think there have been other stories where they've tried to show kind of the older models of Daleks. It is kind of cool when you kind of see them all together and they try to recreate them. But
yeah, I don't think that they have evolved quite as noticeably, for instance, as the Cybermen have. But there certainly has been an evolution as they got past the...
They could fly. You could climb stairs.
Yes. Yeah. The plunger and the whisk days.
When it was just shooting flare from its gun instead of actual lasers. So, though I think one thing about the Daleks, and this was my fandom timeline, and I don't know about yours, I always just thought they were the robot.
Yes.
It wasn't until of course, I mean, it's there in the beginning. It's there in the first serial. But I'm just saying how I watched Doctor Who. I didn't realize there's actually an alien inside there.
Yes.
And it's kind of hard to forget sometimes that there is.
Yeah. Or hard to remember that there is. Because I think of the Dalek as this specific shape, this specific thing. And remembering that actually that's like its car.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes.
It's Voltron.
A little bit. That would be interesting. Can you imagine if the Daleks could evolve to a place where if they all attach together, they make a giant Dalek?
I feel like that has not been covered. I feel like that should be in a 13th Doctor.
We are coming up with storylines. Just for the record, that was our idea. And we would like royalties for that.
Or just, to be in the show.
To be in the show, yeah.
That's
fine.
I'm
good with either one.
Yeah. I mean, Jessica's dying to get her Bradley Walsh autograph, so.
Bless his heart. Fun times.
Okay, well, let's focus our discussion on what we watched recently, and that was our much ballyhooed. We've been talking about it for weeks in this podcast. You know, once I introduced the idea to you. Now, darling,
that there was another Doctor
that you had never known
who
about.
does not fall into the canon at all.
Right. But you've finally seen it, darling.
And now I know why.
So we did watch Doctor Who and the Daleks. Now, of course, being us, we didn't just watch it because that would have been too easy. We watched the Rift Tracks version available on Amazon Prime. I don't know why I'm pimping Amazon because we certainly don't have...
we don't actually have Amazon Prime?
No, but it's there. So anyway, but I find that's how we're watching Sarah Jane, so I find it's actually very quick if you just either want to buy or rent Doctor Who. It seems to be the fastest. Unless you just want to invest in Blu-rays, but that's only for big ticket items, at least in my humble wallet's opinion.
Yes.
So anyway,
absolutely.
so what'd you think finally of saying this? You know, and it's of the time. It's of the first Doctor. I don't have the information in front of me because I'm a bad podcaster, but it was, you know, contemporary to the first Doctor. You know, so. You know, if the first Doctor's, 63? I can't remember when Doctor Who the Daleks was. But it was, you know, mid-60s. So, obviously still in black and white. But anyway, so what'd you think of it all?
Yeah, I think we do first need to talk about the fact that we'd already seen this episode.
Yes.
We hadn't seen any of those characters, but we had definitely already seen this episode.
Now, you say we hadn't seen those characters, darling. I remember a Barbara, Ian, and Susan.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, sorry, we hadn't seen the characters looking the way that they did. They apparently all went through some strange regeneration, then went
is this Ian 2, Barbara 2, and Susan 2?
And then went back in time and repeated an entire experience.
Yes. This is 1966.
And did not remember any of it.
Right.
Because otherwise Ian would have run into fewer things.
Right. So, so it was interesting. Susan is now, instead of being actually still the granddaughter, but instead of being the high school age granddaughter, she's now the, I don't know what England is, middle school age.
Yeah. Early secondary school, late primary school, I would have thought.
Yeah, Susan, sort of, but she's a genius.
Year 6
or, at least,
or something like that.
Prodigy.
Yep. Clever.
Wunderkid.
Yep.
And then instead of Barbara being a teacher, she is now also the Doctor's
granddaughter. I got the impression that were
they sisters?
Yeah.
It was sketchiness. She's a relation of the Doctor. Yeah. I guess perhaps a granddaughter, Susan's older sister, perhaps. And then
I noticed she didn't show up on the 12th Doctor's desk. Hashtag just saying.
And then Ian, instead of being Barbara's fellow teacher at Coal Hill, he is the bumbling boyfriend.
Obviously, yes.
Because you know what the Daleks needed? Comedic relief.
Slapstick.
Yeah.
Every Dalek episode should have a slapstick moment.
And then, of course, you know, I'm one of the. I'm not really that person, but I am one of those person when I see people write Doctor Who as Dr. Who, I'm like, really, guys? Now, of course, that's silly because that's actually canon. That's how early Doctor Who did it, and they literally called them Doctor Who when it first started. So it's just a silliness to be one of those people. But I am.
Yet you are.
Well, I do a little cringe. I'm like, oh, that's not how we do it nowadays. But I'm very comfortable calling this guy Dr. Who, Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Yes. Because the Doctor Who, Peter Cushing is Doctor Who. That is, I guess, Susan is Susan Who, possibly.
All we're waiting for is Mary Lou.
And all the Who's down in Whoville. Yeah. But anyway.
There's an interesting mashup. Let's all have a moment and think of that.
Though I do have to say, the Daleks are pretty spot on. I mean, I guess it's hard to mess them up. Again, maybe it just goes to the simplicity of design and the recognizable voice. You know, just do the synthesizer or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And I mean, they were what they were. Those were Daleks.
Absolutely.
Everything else is what was a little off.
Yes. And again, part of it was definitely because I'd seen this episode before. I find that mind-boggling.
Yeah, and so for those who haven't watched, and those who have, you know, this is literally the episode The Dalek serial on the movie screen with slightly different characters. It's still the TARDIS lands in the, you know, Skaro, and then they go to investigate a city, and there's Mercury they have to find, but they don't really need to.
And radiation problems.
The natives are there, and it's literally like it's down to like the I could get the broad brush. They could have stolen it, but it's down to like, they tell Susan to go talk to the natives and fool them and write the note and like literally.
Yeah. Although then they childproof it a little bit because in the original one of the natives dies.
Right.
He falls off the cliff to his death. And in this one, he survives.
That's true.
They managed to save him because child friendly.
Well, then the other one did die in the swamp.
Yeah, but those things happen.
Yes.
So,
And I almost was waiting because I could remember, and it was weird. Maybe I've seen it twice because I watched it with you, but still, I could actually remember like the breaks, like the cliffhangers. I was waiting for the movie to have them.
Yeah. And of course, we're watching the Riff Tracks version of it, and we're also providing our own Riff Tracks. So it was a little bit chaotic, but. Yeah, Ian is just all over the place. It was strange. But it was in color, so there's that.
Was it in color? Oh, see, for some reason I just... Okay.
Yeah, no, it was in color.
I don't know why I said it was black and white then. I'm a liar as well.
Because we talked about it.
That's probably why that we saw some colorful Daleks then.
Yeah.
I mean, they were probably like blue. But.
Maybe. But yeah, because I asked about when it was done, because I was thinking about when we start getting color television.
Yeah.
And you suggested that it was at the same time they were making the black and white television shows, but because it's movies.
Now in Telecolor.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the first Color Doctor, that's sorry. But the first Doctor Who in color was, that we'll talk about that later, was the third Doctor.
Yeah.
And that was, now I have to look up on my doctors listed here. But anyway, I feel like that's late 60s.
Was it straight away? Like the last moment of the second Doctor was black and white and the first moment of the third Doctor? Like he landed in Oz or something? Has he regenerated? I've seen it. Yeah.
Spearhead from space.
Yeah, but so here I am in Oz.
Well, called Earth, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You say tomato, darling.
I mean, but that was sort of, I guess, capitalizing on the idea of, the Daleks captivating audience on the TV screen. So let's make it in a movie, and they'll love it there. And apparently they do, because there is a sequel.
Is it another episode that we've
yes.
already seen? No, Phillip.
That's going to be maybe a potential future episode where we will compare the Dalek invasion of Earth with
the Dalek invasion of Earth.
Now I'm forgetting the sequel. But anyway, yes.
Oh dear, I can't. It just I don't understand it at all.
Followed by so the Dalek invasion of Earth, I believe, is the name of the serial, and the movie is Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD, which was made a year later. So.
That feels like that title's a bit long and clunky.
Yeah, well, I'm sure much like the movie. Probably.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Certainly Ian.
Well, see, now I'm excited to see who will play all the characters that when we watch the serial, we'll be able to guess. I wonder which characters they're going to use, and are they going to make them younger or older?
Which Doctor is it?
Still the first.
Still the first Doctor.
Still the first,
For both?
Yeah, it's still the 60s. Yeah.
Okay. But new companions?
Well, we'll see. I don't know. I don't think. I mean, again, I've seen all the classic.
The television episode.
Well, I'd have to watch it again. I don't know. I can't remember.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like
you
it's
really have not done your research for this podcast.
I feel like the answer is probably no, because it's. I think it's one of the. I think it's later. I think it's post Ian Barbara, but we'll find out.
Okay. There you go. That's something to look forward. Is there a riff track version of this as well?
If not, we'll make our own.
Oh, okay.
That's true. So anyway, but getting back to the Daleks, I guess, the whole, the bits that sort of, they try to make them interesting. I'm not trying to belittle it, but sort of like, your basic Dalek, sort of like Davros, you're sort of the creator. That's sort of, I thought it was interesting to see the 12th Doctor story with Davros, sort of a fake out about, the little child Davros and what do you do if you're faced with that decision, which of course that'll go to Genesis of the Dalek. But anyway, should he save this child that he knows will grow up to be I thought it was an interesting 12th Doctor story to do that. And then you always have, just like the Cybermen, you always have like the Dalek control. I don't even remember the names. Dalek controller, Dalek whatever, it's always something.
Yeah.
Or the more interesting Dalek. It's just not the. But I think about, someone posted a clip recently on Twitter. It was celebrating, I guess, the episode, was it just called Dalek, with the 9th Doctor, the first appearance or reappearance of the Daleks in New Who, where it was just that single Dalek. with the Ninth Doctor. And it was because it was when the Ninth Doctor first visits him, and he's, of course, scared to death. But then when you realize it's all chained up, because it was whatever.
Oh, right, yes. And being
like,
tortured. And
then he's sort of like, we destroyed you. And then he has to reveal that it's, of course, the Time Lords died as well. And you sort of get that ninth. And it's cool, I think, to watch how well it holds up, knowing the War Doctor. And knowing what happened, but then knowing the Ninth Doctor doesn't remember that way. And so... but the whole Day of the Doctor story, how many children were there on Gallery. But I think it holds up when you kind of go back in time with the Ninth Doctor, if you will, about his experience with the Daleks. I think it holds up. So I think, but again, the single Dalek is interesting. But then you always have the fleet of Daleks, and then it's like, okay.
Yeah. And maybe that's the thing, they are faceless.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cybermen, while not faceless, are completely expressionless, and maybe that's the thing that makes them pure villain.
Yeah, I think maybe with Cybermen, I'm not saying I like them better. I mean, I'd have to think about it. But like with the Cybermen, they're taking humans. They're assimilating us. And so there's that element, like you're talking about with Bill. With Daleks, they're aliens. The Collheads or whatever they are, because it's Dalek backwards. Whatever. They're the little squirty thingies, splotchy thingies, whatever. And so it's hard to tell what's the takeaway for... I mean, not that all art has to be commentary on current events, though I tend to like it that way. Not necessarily current events, but at least making you think about society and life and whatever. And so the Daleks, what do they make you think of? Or is it just, a cartoon kids villain? And I'm not making fun of that, but, is that all they are?
Well, I think that, again, our jump into the TARDIS library will certainly cover some of those issues, won't it? Because I feel like that does raise more contemporary concerns.
Sure.
So
now other than Voltron Dalek, which I think is a great idea.
Yep. Again, that's ours. We've copyrighted it.
But what do you think are some future Dalek stories left to tell?
There's always the possibility of the attempt to make them human.
Mm-hmm. Well,
if you will.
Now they did that, and what I don't think is regarded as necessarily the best episode with, I don't forget, it's not the Daleks in Manhattan, but anyway, it's the 10th Doctor story. But anyway, it's when the Daleks, and they have it's in Depression era New York, and they make a human Dalek. It's like a guy, and he has like the little guy, and he has like a Dalek head and whatever.
Yeah, something about that seems vaguely
Delula,
familiar.
and they had the boyfriend with the pig face because the Daleks were making
pig
yes, people.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes. Well, I mean, what I meant was to make them less viciously evil. That's all we got.
Mm-hmm.
So to anthropomorphize them more.
Yeah, and again, I think there's something to tell in their version of purity. What does that mean? Because I mean, it's really about, it's an extreme version, obviously, of racism, whatever ism you want to use, race superiority or whatever. I mean, because that's obviously what the Daleks are all about. But then taking that story and what does that mean, and why, how are those elements current or whatever? Because I did like what they did with the 12th Doctor. Daleks are about hate, and then the Dalek discovered, well, you hate the Daleks. Then doesn't that make you like a Dalek? If that's all you do is hate the Doctor, if the Doctor's just full of hate about the Dalek. So it was an interesting story to tell. Cool. All right. Well, any final thoughts about the Daleks? Dalek.
Too loud. That was too loud. Yeah, no, I still find them a little creepy.
Yeah.
Which I think was part of their purpose.
Ding.
Was, a little bit of scariness in the docudrama that we watch. You see the images of the kids hiding behind the sofa to watch it. They're a little scary.
Yeah, and I think there's iconic music and sound effects that you can, and I think that's cool. Like you said, that just because of the classic villain that they what they're going to be doing.
Yes, you know what you're going to get with the Dalek episode.
Mm-hmm.
All right, into the TARDIS library, mister.
Yes, and we're going to be continuing with our Dalek conversation, but I thought I'd talk about a specific Dalek serial from the classic series. I was going to go with Genesis of the Daleks, but I feel like we're going to save that for another episode sometime. So I thought I was kind of looking at a list of what are the top Dalek stories. And then I was looking for what's the shortest of those, because, like, as we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we don't have a lot of time these days.
This has been busy.
Yeah, so there were a lot of 6-parters. I'm like, I don't think we can do a 6-parter. So what's a 4-parter you got for me? And that was, one in the list was Remembrance of the Daleks, featuring the 7th Doctor and Ace. And this was originally aired 5 October 1988, the day after I turned 8 years old.
Look at there.
Which is kind of weird to think back that there was Doctor Who was on when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, not that I knew, but, you know. Anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, I want to give us, it's a bit of a longer one, but I think it's still good. Want to give us a synopsis from TARDIS.wikia?
I would love to. London, 1963. The Doctor returns to the place where it all began, alongside his latest companion,
Ace!
With unfinished business. Not for the first time, unusual events are unfolding at Coal Hill School. At 76 Totters Lane, the Doctor discovers that his oldest foes, the Daleks, are on the trail of the stolen Time Lord technology that he left on Earth long ago. The Daleks are planning to perfect their own time travel capability in order to unleash themselves across the whole of time and space. The Doctor, with the help of the local military, must stop his oldest enemies from stealing Gallifreyan secrets, but the lines between allies and enemies are tested to the limit, and the Doctor and
Ace
must trust no one in order to survive. As two opposing Dalek factions meet in an explosive confrontation, the fate of the whole cosmos hangs in the balance.
Dun 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 dun.
Ace!
I'm trying to think of some 80s synth pop I can include as
I
mood
feel
music.
like you can just use whatever was in the... Although if I remember correctly, this did start off sounding like it was going to be a porno.
So what did you think of the Dalek story in this one? I thought it was actually a little more complex than you usually expect.
Yes, it was more complex and probably a little bit more complicated than it needed to be. Mm-hmm. Although I did really enjoy it, and I'm discovering that I'm quite fond of Ace.
Ace, yes.
She's kind of delightful.
Yeah, and I when she's literally, I mean, of course, it's a super bat, but using a bat to basically beat up the Daleks, not many companions we see literally take on hand-to-hand combat with the Daleks.
No, absolutely. And I think that she is probably going to feature heavily in next week's episode, which we'll get to.
We'll tease appropriately enough. I mean, like she's picking up RPGs and firing anti-tank,
absolutely. Absolutely. At the same time, carrying on this little flirt thing with one of the army guys who turns out to not be good. No. And to me, that was the bit, it felt a little heavy-handed. In terms of the message they were trying to get across, and I don't think they necessarily needed to do that.
Well, I also thought it was a little, I feel like they cut something out, because, she was being friendly with the sergeant, I think it was a sergeant, I can't remember, but anyway.
Young guy in a bomber jacket, that's all you know.
Yeah, which I thought, isn't he a pilot then? But anyway, I don't pretend to know British military in the 60s. But anyway, but I thought it was, it wasn't necessarily romantic, but I suppose you could read it that way. But it sort of went quickly, in a quick betrayal. It's like, hey, that's fun, we're young, let's go do young things. And then it's kind of like, oh, how could you do that? How could you do? I'm like, did we just know him for a second? But anyway.
Yeah, and we get a little bit of that foreshadowing at his mother's boarding house.
Yes.
But again, like I say, that just felt heavy-handed.
But his mom's a racist, so it's all right.
Well, but that's the thing, because apparently so is he. And
right.
that's, and so basically you've got the two factions of Daleks. And the primary faction doesn't like the rebel faction because they're not pure enough.
By the way, I did love how, the Doctor obviously is Mr. Exposition most of the time, because that's sort of his job. The companion asks the question, the Doctor explains what's going on. That's the deal you make in Doctor Who. I like in this one where the Doctor delegates exposition to Ace, because one of the scientists is like, what's happening? He's like, Ace? And she's like, well, one of the blobby bits, and then these blobby bits, that's pretty much, you got it.
Yeah. And it's interesting exposition, so that's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, that message was pretty clear.
Right.
Purity, you can draw those conclusions of, sort of Nazi, white supremacy.
Yes.
I can draw all those conclusions just on the Dalek story. So I didn't need necessarily the sign on the boarding house that said no colored people, no coloreds.
Yeah, I think it's no coloreds. It was
and I didn't need the sergeant or whatever he is betray them because it's important to protect your own race, which he said. I didn't need that. I got it. Don't hit me over the head with your hand of Omega bat to teach me this message.
Right. Yeah, because it was interesting and again, a bit of time travel involved, but I can get there, though it takes a while, especially being not British, but I can still try to get it because, of course, this is the opener to the 25th season, so this kind of works in a way as a 25th anniversary special, if you will. So, they're arriving on the day that the first Doctor Who episode occurred, which was the first contemporary day that Doctor Who aired, November 23rd, 1963. And so that it's very heavily, implied that's when they're arriving on that day. And because, there's literally a part where, I tried to be Captain Obvious about it just because I didn't want you to miss it, where Ace turns on the TV and it's BBC and then stand by for an exciting new sci-fi series, docked, and then, turns off. Yeah. But anyway, so I thought that was cute. But then again, where you have Mr. Radcliffe talking about, we were on the wrong side in the last war. I'm trying to which was the last 1960, and so it's like, oh, really? Well, that's, okay, if you're talking about World War II, then this is an interesting character. Then interesting as an evil, of course.
Yes,
but
and we're going to be on the right side. And again, I just didn't need all of that. I think it would have run better. And like I say, I liked the episode a lot, and I thoroughly enjoyed Ace. That just, as you say, it felt clunky. It felt the whole a betrayal of the sergeant or whatever he is, and that felt fast and a little bit ham-fisted because we didn't really have any suggestion of that up to this point, and it just went a little bit wonky, I thought. But we did have a wonderful guest appearance, completely unexpected.
I hate that we should really look up his name, but I can't remember his name. But anyway, the acting, what would it be, cafe owner? So the cafe owner apparently...
Or the worker at the cafe. Yeah. Because I think they were looking for the owner.
Yeah, because the guy, I guess, was having babies, and Doc's like, okay, that'll be twins.
Yes.
But anyway, yes, it was the gentleman from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air here in the States. The butler,
yeah.
And so, which I guess, contemporary, too, was not that far from this, because this is, 88, I said, and Fresh Prince was probably early 90s.
Yeah.
So it was only probably a couple of years later.
Joseph Marcel is his name. I looked him up. So,
which is interesting because he is doing a West Indies accent in here, where in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air he's doing a British accent.
It's much more British, yeah. September 1990 was when Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So, yeah, he was not far away from getting that gig, in breaking Hollywood. Into American television, yeah. But that was, both of us sort of did a, oh my gosh!
You're not often seeing your childhood TV shows in America of stars showing up in classic Who.
But it really is true. Every British actor ever has been in Doctor Who. Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
Also see Harry Potter. But anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, no, I did think it's also interesting the fact, like you said, that there were two Dalek sides. I didn't necessarily get the creepy child as Dalek controller or whatever. I mean, other than you just want a creepy child, I guess.
Creepy childs are always creepy children. Sorry, creepy children are always fun to have.
But I did like having the two sides because again, it adds complexity to the Daleks. They're just being the monolith, and as you already said. But then of course you get the Davros, because I knew Davros was going to show up because I did do some research, watching it, so I kind of knew.
Well, there's a first.
Yeah, but then I kind of forgot because at first it was like, oh, it's that person. Like, oh no, that's the kid. Because I thought it was the person that because Davros has that sort of half Dalek chair, but that was the little girl that was in there. I was like, oh well, surely I'm not wrong because it was in the Wikipedia. But anyway,
the font of all knowledge.
Yes, but then that's because the Dalek controller, I forget the names they keep using, but it had the big white head, which I thought was kind of stupid looking. I'm like, oh, but classic Who, I'm forgiving. But it's like, oh, reveal that Davros. Well, that makes sense. That's why it looks stupid.
Because Davros. And of course he kills Davros.
Yeah, and blows up Skaro.
Yeah.
So
that's the last Dalek episode we'll ever see, right?
Never will see Skaro, Davros.
Never see any of the Daleks ever again after the 7th Doctor.
Yeah.
I'm also I quite enjoyed the 7th Doctor. He seems to have a little bit of just a cheeky wink, wink, nudge, nudge about him.
Yes.
That I find quite charming.
Mm-hmm. I haven't shown you the early episodes of him yet, where he definitely hasn't found his character. But this, doing the research, and it's commentary, so you can always come to your own conclusion. This was sort of the Doctor as the master planner, strategist, perhaps even a little bit of a manipulator. But anyway, it was interesting, the Doctor Who adding to its own backstory of that, the reason that the first Doctor was there on Earth in Coal Hill with Susan, well, to him, in his timeline all those years ago, of course it was like 5 minutes ago in that timeline, but was to hide the hand of Omega. Or Omega, or whoever actor was pronouncing it at the time.
Everybody, it's really interesting, the people who pronounce it the way we expect to hear it. The Daleks.
Yeah, I don't know, not being British, I don't know if it's just an accent thing, because in America it's Omega. Yeah. And I didn't know Omega was a choice.
And it's one of those that never comes up.
Yeah.
And so I don't know the answer to that either.
Because it happened in every other Doctor Who with Omega that's come up before that we've watched.
Yeah, and I know that Beta is Beta.
Yeah.
And that I understood. Uh-huh. That I came across several times, but never came across the word Omega. Never did. Now, I did have to learn the entire Greek alphabet to join the sorority.
Okay.
So I can go through the entire alphabet. I will not subject anybody to it, but, it's something I'm familiar with, not necessarily something I do with everyone I meet to check their pronunciation of all the words.
Well, now you have...
So it does make me wonder how they'd pronounce the Omicron.
There you go. I don't know. Because it doesn't help when they inconsistently pronounce it throughout the episode, because then I'm very confused.
Yeah.
Was there an American Dalek controller who was just like, Omega, Omega, I don't know. No, because then they would have saved him for the second Doctor episode with the Americans. So
obviously, yes.
Oh no, it's the hand of Omega. So anyway.
Oh, bless.
That's what Americans sound like.
But overall, I quite enjoyed this one. Yeah, I found it entertaining. I didn't find myself at any time, which I have done in the past when we've watched Doctor Who serials, of getting to the cliffhanger of an episode and going, oh God, there's more. Didn't feel that way about this one at all.
Yeah,
so.
Because I think the characters and the plot, because it was almost, I almost kept asking where unit is. Now, I don't know the unit timeline in the show, but I had to remind myself this is 63. And everything we always see is presumably past that. Because I'm trying to remember when the Yeti story, when we first meet the Brigadier, before he's the Brigadier, but when he's the Colonel, I guess. But anyway, I can't remember what year that was, at least in the story time, what year it was. So it may have been later in the 60s. Maybe there may not be a unit for all I know. But anyway, but it almost seemed like people were just acting like units. You sort of had the fleet captain, and then you sort of had the women scientists.
None of whom seemed to be overly shocked and awed by the whole alien invasion thing.
Right.
They were curious.
Yes.
And they were frustrated that the Doctor wouldn't explain anything, but nobody was like, wait, what?
And I did think it was interesting, and again, I never know what to make of time periods and television showing time periods, which tends to actually be regressive rather than progressive when you watch television. Sometimes society is more progressive than what TV portrays. But anyway, but the women scientists, I can't remember their names, but who were... Well, I can't remember the man's name.
Completely, I know. So, but you are neutralizing your point.
Exactly. But I'm saying they reminded me of sort of Liz.
They must have had names. I don't know.
Reminded me of Liz, because they were scientific advisors, of the third Doctor's companion, and all sort of proto-unit, it all seemed to me. But they were all women. That was going to be my point.
Yes.
It was just sort of fleet captain and the boys, and then the women scientists, because the boys fire weapons and the women's science.
The women's science. Yes. We need that on a t-shirt.
I thought that was interesting.
Or, then you've got Ace, who is holding her own.
And I'm about to say, then you have Ace and the Doctor, who are sort of characters of their own, and so...
Yeah.
They were all very engaging, that's what I was trying to say.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
And then 2 Daleks. You have a special weapons Dalek. You have everything you ever wanted. So
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah. Special armored tank Dalek. That was
Yeah.
interesting.
So, and then little transmatical special effect. You sort of had the X-ray Dalek, and then the Dalek would show
Oh,
up. So,
yeah,
a little
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
And the 80s rock music.
Yeah, I was
playing
going to say
as
the
well,
music.
which was
I
fun.
think that is the hardest part about the 8th Doctor. If anyone ever wants to go back, because I like you said, 7th, excuse me, I said 8th. The 7th Doctor I think, has a lot to him. I mean, I've enjoyed him. But the music does take away from it. It affects the timelessness of it. So, like, if anyone could just rescore the 7th Doctor, you'd be like, that's great stories. But then it's kind of like, pew, 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 pew. And you're like, no.
Well, and 80s music is so specific.
Yeah.
You've got the synth pop that continues to show up, and because it's not something that was used a whole lot before or a whole lot since, it immediately dates a piece.
Right. And it's just like first season Star Trek The Next Generation, so Doctor Who's not the only franchise to suffer the 80s music problem.
Yeah.
So
Well, there you go.
Cool.
What are we going to talk about next week, my love?
Well, you tell me, darling. It's your idea.
I know. I'm kind of excited about this. What I wanted to talk about next week is, as we're moving into this whole female doctor thing, or as we like to call her, doctor.
But with an E at the end?
Yeah. Okay. Or a little heart over one of the letters. What I wanted to think about was which companions, particularly of the female variety, although they don't have to be, would have made good doctors on their own. Or what would that have looked like if, for instance, Susan were the doctor? After all, she's the heir to the throne. Why couldn't she be the doctor? And what would that look like? So I doubt we'll go through all of the female companions, but picking some highlights like Ace, for instance, and talking about what Ace might have looked like as a doctor instead of a companion.
Right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, until next week, darling, you're my favorite companion in all of time and space.
There's nothing sexy about that, baby.
This is BBC Television.